Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Deepdive with me, Vineet Malhotra, and today we take a look at the series of high-profile agreements inked between India and Brazil amidst President Lula da Silva's visit to our country. Now remember, President Lula had arrived in India on the 18th of February as he headed a delegation of over a dozen ministers and business leaders to participate in the India AI Impact Summit 2026. Then on February 21st, he held a series of bilateral meetings with Prime Minister Modi as two leaders celebrated 20 years of establishment of Brazil-India strategic partnership. At the heart of this diplomatic engagement was a comprehensive pact on critical minerals and rare earths forged as part of President Lula's state visit, alongside trade, defense, investment and more. The two leaders also celebrated the deep ties between their nations. Listen in.
ये संतोष का विषय है। भारत और ब्राजील के संबंधों को राष्ट्रपति लूला की दूरदृष्टि और प्रेरक नेतृत्व का लंबे समय से लाभ मिलता रहा है। बीते कुछ वर्षों में मुझे इनसे कई बार मिलने का सौभाग्य मिला है और हर मुलाकात के दौरान मैंने भारत के प्रति इनकी गहरी मित्रता और विश्वास को महसूस।
I would like to finish by saying to you, sir, that I am completely sure that the eyes of Brazil towards India is one of very hopeful eyes. In India, we have a country of a lot of similarities, despite the difference in the number of inhabitants. We have very similar problems. Our scientific and technological knowledge, they are close. And if we work together, we are going to strengthen Brazil.
But the crux of the visit was the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in Rare Earths and Critical Minerals, as New Delhi seeks to reduce its dependence on China, which accounts for nearly 90% of India's import of such materials. The memorandum was signed after bilateral deliberations between Prime Minister and President Lula, and according to a joint statement issued after the meeting, the two leaders welcomed the signing of the MOU and hoped this would give impetus to bilateral cooperation, thus strengthening supply value chains and global competitiveness in mineral exploration, mining, processing, recycling and redefining of critical minerals. So why does this really matter? Well, critical minerals, including rare earth elements, lithium, niobium and other strategic raw materials, are essential for today's economic and technological landscape. They are the backbone of modern industries like electric vehicles, renewable energy, telecommunications, semiconductors, defense systems and artificial intelligence. Many of these minerals are currently dominated by a handful of global suppliers, particularly China, making supply chains vulnerable to geopolitical pressures and market bottlenecks. China towers the market, controlling over 50% production and roughly 87% processing and refining capacity. Now, under the new agreement, India and Brazil, which hold the second largest reserves, have committed to cooperation in mining, exploration, processing and long-term supply chain security of these materials. Brazilian resources, notably its rare earth and niobium reserves, which are amongst the largest in the world, will support India's strategic push to diversify resources and sources of critical inputs and reduce dependence on any single market. The agreement is not merely symbolic, it lays the groundwork for joint exploration and investment, cross-border partnerships and potential Indian participation in Brazilian mining ventures, thus allowing Indian companies to import certain critical minerals under favorable terms, such as zero tariffs for agreed-upon materials. The timing of this visit and these deals is also crucial. Globally, supply chain stresses and geopolitical tensions have pushed major economies to secure alternative sources for key inputs. India's move reflects a broader strategy to build resilient supply chains not tethered to any single dominant supplier, while also strengthening alliances amongst global South partners. Brazil and India, both major emerging markets and BRICS members, see shared economic growth as intertwined with broader cooperation in multilateral forums and global policy shaping. In a pointed reference to rising tensions between the US and China, President Lula also called for strengthening the global South so that we never ever again are faced with a Cold War between two superpowers. Prime Minister Modi, meanwhile, described the critical minerals agreement as a major step towards building resilient supply chains, highlighting that expanding cooperation in these strategic domains will be central to future industrial competitiveness. Listen in.
क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स और रेयर अर्थ में जो समझौता हुआ है वो रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन्स के निर्माण में एक बहुत बड़ा कदम है। डिफेंस के क्षेत्र में भी हमारा सहयोग निरंतर बढ़ रहा है। ये एक दूसरे के प्रति भरोसे और रणनीतिक तालमेल का बेहतरीन उदाहरण है।
Well, while major, this wasn't the only agreement reached between the two countries. The two sides reaffirmed their commitment to expanding trade, with Lula stating that he and Prime Minister Modi had agreed last year to increase trade flow to $20 billion by 2030. Then in 2025, bilateral flow surpassed $15 billion for the first time in history, a growth of 25% from 2024. Lula stated that India and Brazil are moving forward so fast that they should revise their goal of reaching $30 billion in 2030. Discussions were also held on ways to strengthen and diversify bilateral trade through the expansion of the India-Mercosur Preferential Trade Agreement. The Mercosur is a South American trading bloc comprising Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay and Bolivia. Currently, the PTA covers 450 tariff lines, and India and Mercosur have agreed to significantly and substantially expand it. On energy ties, Prime Minister Modi said energy cooperation has been a strong pillar of our relationship. In addition to hydrocarbons, we are also accelerating cooperation in several areas, including renewable energy, ethanol blending, and sustainable aviation fuel. Brazil's active participation in the Global Biofuel Alliance reflects our shared commitment to a green future. Brazil has also proposed co-chairing the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, with Prime Minister Modi congratulating President Lula for the initiative, stating Brazil's extensive experience in this field will significantly contribute to further strengthening the CDRI. Strengthening partnership in agriculture and animal husbandry was also discussed. In the defense sector, a trilateral agreement between Mazagon Dock and the Indian and Brazilian navies is going to be part of maintenance activities for submarines of the Scorpion class and other military vessels. President Lula also hailed the opening of the Embraer office of Brazilian Aerospace Cooperation in New Delhi. What began as a high-profile state visit has yielded substantive economic architecture for a long-term partnership between India and Brazil. As these agreements begin to take effect, the India-Brazil partnership is poised to become a defining economic collaboration, reshaping trade, industrial supply chains, and geopolitical influence across continents. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, is with us on the program to talk more about this. Ambassador Sajjanhar, thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time. Sir, I'm going to begin with an example. I remember when COVID-19 was settling down, there was an acute shortage of semiconductors, there was an acute shortage of laptops, acute shortage and supply chain challenges to automobiles as well, not only within India, but Asia Pacific and Europe and the United States as well. That happened because a lot of the components that were used in some of these technological reliances were made and produced by China. And that was a time of great suffering for corporates and the governments and people alike. Do you think we don't face such a predicament in the future? It is important for countries like India and Brazil to work together and figure out how to have this monopolistic attitude of certain countries ruled out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vineet, for having me here. You are very right. I think it was in 2019, 2020 when COVID, all of us, the whole world was afflicted with COVID. And that was the time when the weaponization of supply chains, that was resorted to by China. And that was the time that was really a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call for the whole world. It was not only for India. That the concentration of manufacturing of such a diverse number of commodities in one single geography, in one single territory, was not good for the world. So it was not only that it should be the price sensitivity of the products, but it should also be the reliability and the trustworthiness of the producer, of the manufacturer of those particular products. You would recall you have mentioned, all those items that are dependent upon semiconductor chips, etc. Whether it's laptops, whether it's automotive components, or it is many of the high-tech products in the areas of medicine, in the area of defense and all. But even the small items like PPEs, like masks, etc., like ventilators, they were also sought to be weaponized. And that I think the world realized at that time, that we have to have a policy of what was called China plus one, in that India would be that plus one. Unfortunately, India at that time was not able to take full advantage, full benefit of that. But now around the world, it has become quite clear, whether it is Europe, whether it is the United States. And in that context, the critical minerals and the rare earths, they have acquired particular salience and relevance, because if we want to take full advantage of the new technologies, whether it is in the area of medicines, or it is in the area of space or anything else, then definitely we need these critical minerals. And as you said very correctly, more than 70% of the mining of the world, more than 90% of processing of these critical minerals of the world, this is concentrated in China. And in that context, other countries need to come together, need to get together, so that we are not dependent. We have seen recently as to how the weaponization of these critical minerals was used by China against the United States. So we have a large number of countries who are getting into this act. You would recall that when Prime Minister Modi was in Brazil last year for the BRICS summit, then also there was an agreement signed on the issue of critical minerals. When he went to countries in Africa, there also they are very rich in rare earths. In Argentina, that is Chile, they are very rich in critical minerals. But as far as Brazil is concerned, I think particularly relevant, because Brazil is a huge country. Its population might definitely not be comparable to that of India. That's about 240 million population, but its area, it is about 3 times as large as India, somewhere around 8.5 million square kilometers. And it has huge stocks of rare earths and minerals. And I'm very happy, this is the sixth visit of the President of Brazil to India. In fact, his first state visit and first bilateral visit that is taking place to India after maybe 2004, when he had come here as the chief guest on Republic Day. The last visit was in 2023, when he came as to participate in the G20 summit. And but we hope to receive him again later this year when India hosts the BRICS summit. But the point I'm making is that the relationship between India and Brazil is very strong. It is very deep rooted. Both of them are very significant actors and players as far as the global south is concerned,
Fair
whether
enough,
it's
sir.
G20, whether it is BRICS,
All right,
whether
sir.
it is IPSA, or they are members of the G4 who want their rightful
You're
place as
absolutely right, sir.
permanent members of the
Unfortunately,
Global Security
we've run out
Council.
of time, but I appreciate your presence, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate your perspective and your presence. We'll dip into a short break now. More on the other side.